benvinda and benvinda the podcast. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, and it's 2021. Finally done with this crazy year. We're starting fresh. Hopefully, this is gonna be, a lot better. I don't know. What's your thoughts around 2021?
Yeah, I'm betting on the vaccine and that everyone will try to get until mid year, and then we'll start to have a bit of a normality again, hopefully.
Right. I mean, it would probably still be some sort of new normal, I guess, but
yeah,
you can't be anything similar to what we've been experiencing in 2020.
No, please.
but thanks for joining, Bianca. It's a pleasure having you here. And I mean, as diving into sort of the world of HR, I think a lot of you guys that are tuning in, listening here, watching, or wherever you might see this, is that I think it's a really great episode. We're gonna dive into what tips HRs in sports are actually having for you guys, what are the stuff they're looking at, what are some of the key tips, and this is going to really help you. And if you like to hear more stuff like this, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the video, follow us on whatever it is. And on the plus side too, we also have some available jobs from Extreme at our platform. So just make sure to check that out at sportingglobal.com or download the iOS and Android app. So, we're starting the year in a good note, great opportunities and some great content. So Bianca, we're just gonna dive right into it. And I'm kind of curious of your journey into HR and what was it about HR, working with that in sports, that you're okay, this is something that I wanna be part of.
Yeah, so I think I say that HR chose me. I didn't choose HR properly. Right. When you're graduating and you don't know what to do, when you're looking for an internship. So I was trying to go here and there. And then I found this job on HR. It was not in the sports industry at this time. Yeah. And then I began my career in HR. And once I was there, of course, I enjoyed, and then
right.
And then continued. And now I'm almost 20 years working with HR.
Wow. So you've been really finding your journey in HR. But what's something special from a sports standpoint that you're okay, yeah, this is, I want to, of course, do HR. I enjoyed that, but why sort of the sports angle on it? Because I think that's always interesting.
Yeah. So that was a big change in my life. I was questioning a lot about my career and what I should do. And once I had one interview in the sports industry, I fell in love immediately. And the funny thing is that I was not super into sports before, but what caught my attention was how passionate people that work in this industry are. Right. So talking with people actually people that were interviewing me were explaining me about the job, and in that case it was the sport events, and you can see their eyes shining and all this passion, and I never saw that in any other industry. So that's, for me, okay, that's the place I want to be. And that's the kind of work I want to do for the rest of my life, I would say.
I mean, it just confirmed the statement that Mark Cuban also had, and which I always say too, is sports is one of the few industries that impact so many people, emotionally and all this stuff. And I mean, it's good when you're coming from the outside and just you see the passion, and why you want to be part of sports, and why it's so passionate. And I think it separates from a lot of other industries. So it's kind of cool getting that from someone who's started from the outside and coming in, and you're I can feel that, So that's great. That's great. So just talk a little bit about sort of your journey before Extreme, and how did that opportunity come up for you?
Yeah, sure. So as I said, I was looking for a new path in my career. Yeah. And then I had an interview. I'm from Rio, Brazil. And I was there in my city when the Olympics and Paralympic Games
Nice.
were going to happen. And that was end of 2013. The games were in 2016. And then I had this interview that changed my life. And of course, I joined Rio 2016 Olympic
How
and
can you
Paralympic
not?
Games.
How can you not?
It's
You know?
impossible. Yeah, no, impossible.
Right.
So I can say that was like the job of my life.
Yeah.
Had 3 amazing, hardworking, super hardworking, but 3 amazing years. I was you have to be passionate. It's something that, or you
Right.
either love or you hate,
Yeah.
because you breathe sports and you breathe your job.
For sure.
So after those 3 years, I was sure that I wanted to continue in this career. And then, of course, when you work with major sport events, you have to look for the next event that can be in another place, in another country. So that was my case. Then I went to Turkmenistan, to Ashgabat, to work in the Asian Indoor and Martial Art Games, 2017.
Huh.
Yeah. And I normally say that after your second sport experience, then a new world opens up a bit to you, because it's really hard. For example, if you work in Olympic Games, at the end of the games, we had around 5,000 people working as staff.
Sure.
And it's super hard to pick up which ones of those 5,000 are really good and will go to other events. But then once you go to your second one, you imagine like it goes like this. A lot of
like
people,
a funnel.
it's like a funnel, totally. And then, okay, you go to your second. After your second, then you start kind of choosing the events you want, ideally. So after Turkmenistan, I went to Abu Dhabi to work for Special Olympics, the World Games there. And in Abu Dhabi as well, I worked for the AFC Asian Cup. That is like the second biggest football tournament after the World Cup.
Nice.
Then after that, I think I was I had a role in the Ryder Cup as well.
Oh yeah.
Just for operations.
Nice.
So you can either work for the events during the planning phase, or only like really short term during the operational phase. And that will be when the event is happening.
Right.
So some people just like I had a break, like 1 week of vacation, and then went to Ryder Cup in Paris and came back to Abu Dhabi.
Right. Yeah.
After that, then I chose, I think, to come to Europe. And then it was not sports. So I went to a really cool job as well. I was working for the United Nations. But
can't complain about that either, though. You know.
No, not at all. And like it's doing the good, it's non-profit. So it's really rewarding job. But I was missing the passion. I was missing a lot this passion that I had for sports. I can still like my job, but it was not the same. Then end of 2018, end of 2019, I saw on LinkedIn an advertisement for HR manager for Extreme. And at the same time, I applied and I sent a LinkedIn message to Alistair Gosling, our CEO, saying that I was very interested, and explaining like really briefly my experience in the sports industry. Sure. And we started talking, but then COVID came. So it was right in the middle. I was in Saudi Arabia, by the way, doing about to do another event, the Saudi National Games that were canceled by COVID.
Obviously.
And then, of course, all those conversations with Extreme had to slow down a bit Until a few months ago, when Al messaged me and said, are you still interested to join us? I was like, of course.
Right.
And then finally, I joined Extreme. So I think for in the sports career, you change a lot, especially if you're working for events. But to be able to work for Extreme, I think is a bit of a goal that I feel that I made it, because we are still a sport organization, but we are not only working with events. So I can work here for I would say a longer term than only for a sport event. So that's very good.
A little bit more long-term perspective, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that's one tricky thing about a career in sports. If you're looking for stability, then I wouldn't say that's the most stable kind of job. Like in the 4 past years, I've lived in 4 different continents, not even countries, but continents.
Right. No, I get that, and especially when you work sports events, right? I think if you're on the operations or like event side of the sporting industry, I think you should definitely be prepared for a lot of flexibility in terms of moving around and being all over the place, I guess. If not, maybe that's not, I mean, like, you can still work for like a professional team or something, right? And you can kind of like be based, right? Or league or what it might be that are a little bit more,
or federation.
So there's definitely options, of course, like that. But if you're like, oh, I want to work major events, you gotta be prepared to be all over the place. I have a few friends of mine as well from my school, like back in San Francisco and everything, that went down that event route, and they, like, one guy, like, he worked a lot of golf events, so he's been like all over the place with golf. And then I know, like, some people work with like the Super Bowl, so they've been like traveling to whatever whole city they're going to. A little bit easier though, it's like still in the US, so it's not like too crazy. But you know how US is, like, it's 5 hours to fly from San Francisco to
US
to
is
DC.
huge.
It's nuts, and you change the time zone for 3 hours. Who knew? Like, I got jet lag, even like flying from there.
It's almost changing countries, like if you compare to Europe.
It pretty much is like changing, like, I don't know, from wherever it is, it's far, it seems extremely far. But yeah, I mean, like, it's a super interesting story, and we're gonna dive a little bit more into sort of like now, I guess, like the HR, more like topic questions, like tips, advice. For those that been holding on now and just waiting, like, where are the tips? I mean, there's obviously a lot of stuff to learn from this already. But yeah, I mean, like, how do you, like, what do you see? And I think, like, this is sort of like probably what a lot of people are just thinking about now, is like, what do you see as the most common mistakes with job applications? Like, what are some of the most common mistakes you see?
Okay. I think there are 2 different types of job applications. There are those applications that you're just like click, 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 click. You're just applying. You're desperate for a job, whatever, and you don't mind which company it will be, and then you're just apply, and then you have your default CV and your default cover letter, and then you apply with that.
So just like generic stuff.
Generic, yes. But if you see a job, or if there is a company that you really want that position, you really want to work for the company, I think one of the main mistakes is that people do not amend their CVs or cover letters in order to fit for the role in the company. So, for example, let's say, I'll give my example. My experience in HR is very generalist, like I've been all over, HR areas. But let's say I'm applying for a recruiter position in a sports company. Then I'll get my CV, and in my experience in each company that I worked for, I will highlight, and I'll make this all the recruiting stuff that I did to stand out. So I will change a few things, of course, all true, but instead of explaining more about the trainings that I gave and the systems that I implemented, I will say way more about all the things that I have done for recruitment, how many people I recruited in this time frame. And then in the cover letter, I will say, I'll write not only my qualifications, but why do I want to work for this company and why my experience is relevant for this position. So you got to spend time there. You got to sit down. You got to study the position, the job description, and then make sure your CV will really match with this. And then you have a nice cover letter. The cover letter, not all the companies they ask for it, but it's nice to have, especially if it's something really specific, if it's a place that you really want to work for. So write a nice one. And you do not need like super writing skills. You can search on the internet a lot of templates, and then you can start from there.
No, I think that's a really good advice. And I mean, like, even me, when I was like, before I started the company and I was like a little bit on a job hunt, I would say, I mean, like, I found like a template that I just like, okay, this is me, this is sort of like that. I feel like I can stand out. Like, this is something that can describe me the best possible way, just separate me a little bit. And then, of course, as you said, like, every job posting that you do, and honestly, for me personally, I don't care how many you apply for, because of course, like, you can be interested in a lot of different jobs, but make sure that every application that you put in, that you make it relevant, and that, especially as you said in the cover letter too, like, how can you solve the challenges that they're asking for, right? The requirements that you guys have in the job posting.
And please read the requirements. Let's say we say for this position you need to have Photoshop skills. You need to know how to handle Photoshop. Then you receive thousands of CVs with zero experience in Photoshop. And even if you try like an easy one, you need to be fluent in French. And then you read a CV, French, basic. So you just apply, you didn't, and then you realize as a recruiter that the candidate even bothered to read until the end.
No, I mean, like,
please read.
I think what people sort of like, I guess the challenge here, and if we try to like educate them somehow, is that, of course, like, we get it, like, you're in a position, you want to get a job, you want to get an opportunity, and think, okay, I gotta apply, but rather focus on, okay, what are the, I don't know, top 10 or 15 jobs that I really want to do, and do them well. Like, put down the effort to like write that CV, write that cover letter well, and this is like obviously why, Sporting Global is there too, so like your profile is your CV, so put in the information that you can, and then we ask everyone to write in a cover letter or send in a cover letter to the organization, so you can highlight why do you exactly want to work with this organization, how can you provide value, because again, as Bianca said, this is what you're looking for, like, how can you provide value to them. So this is going to be very important. And diving over into them, okay, say like, okay, you started to get like some job application here, so what are some of the top 3-4 things that you are like, okay, this is sort of like must have, or like stuff that I particularly will look after when you're evaluating candidates?
Okay, so when I receive a CV and a cover letter, first thing, of course, is the experience. Like, okay, what this person have done. has done in their life. Then second thing is why you're applying. Like, imagine that you don't have any experience in the role that you're applying to. Okay, so why do you want to work with us? Why do you want to apply? What's the purpose that you have inside you to be applying for this job?
Sure.
And then the third one, I would say, especially for the sports industry, is a specific experience with the sports industry, or it can be in the personal side. Okay, I'm a sales guy that always worked for, I don't know, for banks.
Right.
But now I want to change to the sports industry. Okay, but why? And then I will see, like, in the bottom of your CV, ex-athlete of climbing. I don't know. So there is something that I want to see there. If you don't have a specific experience in the industry, that I want to see in your CV why you do want to work with us. That there must be something specific about sports. And it's okay to put something personal, like personal interests in your CV. It's fine.
And I think it's very important what you're highlighting here too. Is like for those that are like trying to like change their career from another industry. And we always talk about this too, like the ones that, you know, really wants to be part of sports, they have either like, you know, been an athlete, they involve themselves in sports like somehow. So even if you don't necessarily have that, you know, experience yet working for sports, like you probably have done something related to sports that you're like, this is why I want to be part of it, you know, because I see the passion and I like this industry, like it's giving me so much joy. Showcase that, as you said, because this is something that, and I think probably sport is very important that you are able to showcase this too. Because in an industry that are so passionate people, like everyone that's in sports, they love what they're doing and they want to be part of this industry for like all their life. I even said, like me, I don't know what I would do if I couldn't work in sports. I have no idea, honestly. No idea. It's like my only choice.
I think I would be super bored to go back to a old style corporation, like oil and gas that I've seen, and I would be bored for sure.
Right, exactly. But this is some really good advice for like specifically what you're looking at. But I think also like what you were saying is that for those that don't necessarily have that experience yet, you know, it's like why, and maybe not in that job, like why exactly do you want to have that job? And again, bringing up, okay, what have you done previously that could relate? And like that, again, in sports, like what is it about sports that makes you want to have that opportunity? And again, I think also from your side, right? It's like if you're bringing up some personal stuff, then that's, you know, as a way of separating yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking into the future, the beginner faces a choice that leads him to the triumph, or not. Being surrounded by like-minded professionals can be the best guarantee that you actually take that crucial career step.
Sport in Global is a digital network for sports jobs. It gives you the chance to be involved in the sports industry no matter who you are, regardless of gender, nationality, and experience.
Our AI system matches up talent with human resources. Candidates who align with the company's values and needs immediately get shortlisted. It saves time for HR and increases the opportunities available to applicants.
The platform identifies tailor-made recommendations based on user needs, so you're always aware of the possibilities out there right now.
Sport in Global is a place where students gain key tips about jobs and build the valuable connections that are essential for people at the beginning of their career path.
The path from candidate to champion starts with a single step in the right direction. Sign up to Sport in Global.
Sport in Global, the best way to enter the sports industry.
So for you and Extreme, like when you guys are recruiting, and as you said, you've been through like a couple of processes, even with Sporting Global recruiting, and like what are some of the key things that are important for you guys when you are recruiting?
So I can relate I can relate this entire conversation to one word that I think is the thing that we really look for in a candidate: is passion.
Yes.
Passion to work with sports, passion to do that. Specifically in this industry, you gotta have that, and you don't need to be necessarily a former athlete, but you gotta like what you do. It's even like in my case, for example, I love working in this industry. At the end, of course, I love sports now. But in the beginning, it's just because I love to work with people that are passionate about what they do.
Right.
So you gotta have one passion. There is one thing that triggers you, and that's what we want to know.
No, for sure. I mean, like, but then, like, my follow-up question is, like, how do they showcase this passion, though? Like, how do you bring out to showcase that in a CV and a cover letter?
Yeah. So that's a real good question. Your CV and your cover letter are the first things that HR, like we there in the other side, we will look at. So that's your business card.
Yeah.
So invest time again in your CV in doing a good template. Pay attention on grammatical mistakes, like misspelling, like basic things, but also how it looks like. Doesn't need to be all colorful and full of creative stuff, but it needs to look nice. Maximum 2 pages, and then again amend for the job that you're applying to. I think that's the most important thing. Then, okay, if your CV and your cover letter, they both stand out for us, we'll invite you for an interview. And well, nowadays all the interviews are via Zoom. It's not everyone that is prepared. I think that is used to a Zoom interview because it's way easier when you're doing a face-to-face interview.
Sure.
To create empathy, like then practice. If you are shy, if you don't know how to speak well about yourself, how to sell you, you're actually selling you. Practice. Like go to go to the mirror and then get your CV, highlight the most important things that you have done, highlight the milestones of your career, the challenges. So think about everything that we could ask you, like those a bit basic questions. Okay, the challenges you had, the whys, like why you went from this role to that role, why do you want this job? Because at the end, if you're a candidate, you're trying to convince me, you're trying to convince the HR or the person that is interviewing you why I should hire you. So it's not only going to a camera and saying, I've done A, B, C, this, and that. No. So is knowing how to, inside your entire experience, how to pinpoint the most relevant things that are related to the position, is how to present yourself, how to talk in a camera or in person, and how to sell yourself to the person that is interviewing you. Because I want to know your experience. I have written the CV, but what I really want to know is why I should hire you, why you want to work with us.
Like, who are you? You know?
Yeah, who are you exactly?
Like, what are your values? What do you stand for? Like, what makes you unique? You know, like how can you provide value for Extreme? You know, in this case.
Exactly. Values are really important as well. Sometimes looks like, oh, okay, company values. Do I need to read that? Yes, do. Do read the company values. Do read a lot about the company before any interview, about the company, about the position.
Time. Prepare yourself. And I mean, like, it's funny, like you talk about sales, right? And I mean, like there's always like this blanket in sports, especially among the young ones. There's like, I don't want to work sales, you know. It's like sports sales and ticket sales and all this stuff. And then what I always say, like, but come on, like you have to sell every day, you know. It's whether it's you or the product that you're working with or the service or what it might be, like you have to sell. at some point you will always sell yourself at the end of the day. And in
Exactly.
interviews, like, this is what you do. Like, you're selling your passion, you're showcasing this. And I think also, like, what you were talking about too is like, be prepared of some of like the typical questions. I remember actually particularly like one of the questions I had back in the day, where I was having an interview for a pretty big club here in Norway, and it's pretty close to like my city, so they're kind of like competitors, in a sense, like the rivalry.
Yeah.
So they're like, why would you want to apply for this job, for this team, when you're from the other city, right? And of
Yeah.
course, like, again, like, it's a valid question. And I said, like, for me, like, I'm professional, like, all I care about is like, I want to work in this industry and I know I can provide value. Like, I don't care what kind of team it is, but I know like I can provide value, and I want to be professional. So you have to separate these kind of things too. It's like,
Yeah.
what is your main goal? Like, of course, if you want to work for your favorite team and that's your only option, then do whatever you take to do that. But most people are not in that position where they can just choose and pick whatever club they want to be or whatever team they want to be. So you got to be okay, but why can you as a professional, actually provide that value, and why is your experience and your personality relevant to whomever you're applying for? And I think this is very important, that you think about these things,
Yeah.
going into the interviews, or even like when you're writing that application. Why are you relevant? And I mean, like, I don't want to take over the conversation, but I feel like we're sort of on the on the same page here of what is
Totally.
important. But you have to, like, if I'm saying anything wrong, just like
No, you're not.
uh, but I'm also kind of like curious of like, if there's a way you could share sort of like an example from like a great job application that you have received, like maybe with Extreme, maybe like before, um, that someone that was able to sort of like separate themselves from the crowd. And I mean, like, obviously you don't have to share any personal details and like all this stuff, but sort of like from a general standpoint, there's like, this is an application that you remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was looking into, I think, around 100 applications, and one had a special. It was really, again, I'm saying that I'm being repetitive. Sorry, in this podcast, but
No worries.
one was so specific. It was putting a lot of personal touch in the cover letter,
Yeah.
about the person that grew up watching the Extreme channel, and how the person was already um, feeling feeling wonderful just to be considered for this position. That would be incredible
Yeah.
if the person would be interviewed.
Right.
So, and then putting it can be a bit cliche, but they were actually saying, okay, that's my dream job,
Right.
and that's why. But then you
Yeah.
explain why. It's not only out, that's my dream job. No, you
Sure.
explain
Sure.
why.
Yeah.
And the connection, the person at the end had so much connection with the brand.
Yeah.
And for me, the application, I just saw, I was like, okay, even if the person had no experience in what I
Right.
wanted, I at least was going to talk to the person. Like, just talk as HR standpoint, just to understand, even if this position wouldn't be a fit, maybe another one that we'll have in the future. So uh, this kind of application stands out because, okay, the person really wants the job here. The
Right.
person really loves the brand, really loves sports, really want to work with us, and that's what we want, because
Right.
that's our business. We want people that are so passionate as we are,
Right.
to join the
For
team.
Sure. Yeah.
Then I interviewed this candidate. Even the experience was zero in the position that the candidate applied to, and maybe, we don't know yet, but maybe we'll might hire this person to do another thing.
Right. No, I mean, I think like also like going back from what you were saying, where, if you have like, okay, out of those 100, say like 80 of those are like generic, like just people that just have been applying
The
like the same
majority
thing
is,
on like, you
yeah.
know, whatever it is, and you have like, you know, 10, 15, or maybe even 5 that just like you put down that extra work, that extra effort, you will be noticed. So just imagine now when you're applying for a job, use that extra 30-minute, hour, whatever it is, read up on the company, like do
Yeah.
the work, make it relevancy, listen to this over and over again. Remember what Bianca has been saying now, like she's been literally giving you like hands-on tips on what you should do. This
Yeah.
is great. I mean, like, and you have example now. It's like this is what they're looking at. Like, don't take it from me, take it from Bianca. Bianca is working this role. You know, you don't have to trust me, you have to trust Bianca. So I mean, like, it's very key, and I really appreciate you sharing this as well. And if we're just gonna like sort of like wrap up here now, looking a little bit into like, you know, new like tips you have for new students, like people that are like, you know, maybe haven't even, you know, applied for a job before, like they're sort of like fresh out of school, maybe like looking for the first internship, or like now like, okay, I'm going into this big world, what am I gonna do, you know? How do they separate themselves, and what are some of the like key things they should keep in mind going out there
Okay.
now?
I have a really important tip. Even if you're just graduating, or if you have already a career but you want to change,
Yeah.
and you want to come to the sports world,
Yeah.
I think one incredible point of entry is to be a volunteer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, oh no, that's not relevant because you're just working for free.
Right.
No, I know myself a lot of people that started as volunteers. They were doing other thing, or they were still studying, and they volunteered in the event that that was happening in their city, or they even traveled to be a volunteer
Right.
somewhere if you can. And that's already experience, that's network
Yeah.
that you build, and that's really important in this industry.
100%.
Like, I think in all industries, but at the end we all know each other because
Yeah.
we are all in the same events and companies, so
It
we
is.
all know each other in this business. So a good starting point is to be a volunteer. And wow, I worked a lot with volunteers myself. I love working with volunteers. I love being a volunteer. So you have fun. You know a lot of people. If you stand out being a volunteer, someone can even invite you to a job later.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then you can start your career in the sports world. I think that would be the biggest tip. And wow, I think this year, hopefully, COVID will let us have more sport events.
Oh yes. It's gonna happen.
So yeah. So be a volunteer. I think that's the key thing to start like building a kind of experience in the industry. The other tips would be like the basic ones for every interview, and everyone that is starting a career, is how to prepare, that we talked a lot today.
Yeah.
Practice, study the company, study the job description, like read a lot, prepare before the interview.
Right.
Like, what I like personally to do before the interview, I write down the most relevant things that I've done. I write down like
Yep.
the whys. So start with why I'm applying,
Right.
what I've done in my career. So practice. I
Yep.
think that's really important. But if you are a volunteer, I think you can start building this network. You can explain about your experience. You will have a knowledge on how sport events, or even like competitions, sports competition,
Right.
happen. So I think that's a very good one.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
No,
So
I think it's amazing. Well, you have like some final remarks?
yeah, no, just as a remark, for Extreme, you can see our positions in the Sporting Global platform, and also in our website. So we always have, and if you only want to send your CV and explain why you would like to work with us, if you make your CV stands out, then probably I will keep the CV in like a special folder in my computer, and once a position that it matches your skill appears, then for sure we access. Like I do that a lot. So as HR, I think that's important. So even if there is no position that is in your experience and skills, like your profile right now, you can also just invest in creating a good profile, creating a good CV, and then sending to us. I think that's important.
Absolutely. Well, Bianca, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a fruitful conversation, a great way to start 2021. And I mean, like, for everyone out there that have been, listening and enjoying this episode, there's a lot of great knowledge. And I mean, like, now it's just to put yourself out there, embark 2021, applying for jobs. You got the tips now, you got the insights. And like I said, if you want to, already looking for some great opportunities, make sure to look at sportingglobal.com. There's some great opportunities from Extreme as well. And like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you can get more insights, knowledge from people like Bianca, sharing knowledge every week, about things that will help you succeed. So Bianca, thank you once again. And we always finish with "Vi snakkes," which means see you later in Norwegian. So now you know some Norwegian.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you.